has logged out of unnecessary stuff and we're ready to rock and roll and focus on the business plan. So Lauren's going to share her screen as we go through this. So again, we can really just focus on what's in front of us as we walk through it. Before we get started on the actual business plan, I don't know if some of you logged into the National Association of Realtors did a summit today, a couple-hour summit that talked about kind of the forecast for 2021. And they covered both residential and commercial thought processes in the summit. So I tuned in for the majority of it. I believe some of it might still be going on right now, but the forecast section, I tuned in, and I know Ryan did as well. So we wanted to give you guys just a real quick, brief overview of our thoughts. One of the questions that I've been getting often is what are we thinking 2021 is going to look like, from a residential standpoint, and then I'll have Ryan speak to the commercial, because I think most of you know that it's different. Residential has been very fortunate with everything that's gone on in the world. It hasn't affected our market too terribly bad. We've had to shift some things. We've had to do things a little bit different, obviously, with the continued lack of inventory. But overall, we've been truly on the luck side, if you will, when it comes to what's been happening in the world. So as I've researched and looked forward to 2021, listened to several different experts talking about it, a lot of the predictions are talking about, the first half of the year is going to be much more of the same. So we're going to see a lot of what we're already seeing. So low inventory, low interest rates, lots of buyers out in the market, lots of the scramble, the multiple offers for anything about 250, 300 and below. We're going to continue to see more of the same of that. What we are going to start seeing, though, is the market get back to some sort of seasonality. So what I mean by that is when we were in March of 2020 and then into April, normally that's a really intense time of year for residential sales, and we start to really gear up for that spring then summer selling season. And we had a delay this year where we've really been we're still truly in sort of an end of summer into fall selling season in December right now. But the predictions are saying as we get into those winter months, we're going to really capture winter as it normally is, and we'll ride out that first half of the year in a true seasonality, but a lot more of what we've been seeing. And then the second half of the year, the predictions are we're going to start seeing an increase in inventory, which that is music to my ears, hopefully to the rest of you as well. I hope that really happens. Some reasons for that is that there will be more confidence for first-time home buyers that own homes to be able, to move into different homes, which will open up some more availability in that first-time home buyer price range. But the big part of that is going to be that builders have been able to catch up. So I would say the last 10 years, if you followed real estate, we had a crisis, a real estate crisis, 2009, 2010. Builders stopped building. And so what that did is it created a very low new build inventory for several years. And we've just recently been able to start to see some sort of increase in building and some sort of catch up. And they're saying that basically by the second half of 2021, we're going to see that level out, and we're going to have the adequate inventory that folks are needing. So people will move out of their existing homes into the new construction, new builds, and then we're going to start to have some inventory for those first time or move up buyers. So that's what I'm hearing on the residential side. It's the reason I want to bring that up for you today here and why it's relevant for what we're doing is because it's important for you to know what the market, what the expectations are as you're mapping out and planning your 2021. So for me, I'm telling you, it's more of the same. It's a great market, and there's no reason to not plan big. There's going to be lots of opportunity for you to help folks buy and sell real estate. So I'm gonna let Ryan speak to what he thinks predictions for commercial is going to be for 2021, and then we'll dive in a little bit more here.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to focus on local, like Susan did. I don't want to worry about necessarily a lot of the national trends. So locally, there's kind of three areas to look at in terms of sectors. There's industrial, retail, and office space. I guess you could say there's a force, and people look at investments as well, and they're not necessarily a user of those. But what I guess the industrial market has been really tight in the Omaha area, meaning not a lot of available space, whether that's for lease or for sale. Those are both pretty hot commodities. The thought process is, that will be something that will continue. The users out there of industrial space are growing, tend to need more of it. There's a continued need for distribution spaces and whatnot. So, so lack of supply will probably be a thing again next year. And that's at a lot of sizes of industrial too. So even larger users. I know we've had trouble placing 25 to 50,000 foot users, which is unusual. So that I think will continue. The retail market is a huge unknown. I think what you're going to see is for the next few months, you're going to see retailers kind of locally desperately pleading for you to pay attention to them and support them. You've already seen that, and you're going to see it even more through the winter as we kind of try to drag out of COVID. There's a good number of them that are telling me they're going to survive it. They'll come out of it fine. They don't know what they're going to come out of it like employment-wise, meaning how many people they can keep on through the winter. So I think that's kind of a big concern for a lot of them. I think you'll see some restaurants drop off. So when you see people posting like, support your favorite restaurant now because it may not be there, I think that could be a real thing for the next quarter, first quarter of the year. I will say I've got folks, I know others on our team that are planning for kind of striking to get a deal now so they can get into a space latter part of 2021 and kind of take advantage of the low market right now in terms of landlords are a little desperate right now for tenants. So I guess the thought process we have on retail is that, coming into the summer, there's going to be some pent up demand and people will start kicking again. And then on office space, it feels like people are ready to start the dialogue and leaders of companies are starting to plan for what their future looks like. Some of the larger local companies or even some that have a national presence, so Cox Communications, it's even like Flywheel and talking to them, we're hearing those companies say they expect to have some impact with work from home, but a majority of their staff will be coming back to office at least, I don't know, at least 3 days a week. Some of them are saying 5. They're giving, figures of 70% of our team wants to be back in the office and almost full time, which is good news for the office market. It's been kind of doom and gloom and still is a little bit just because there's not been a lot of hope until now with the vaccine news. So that bodes well. So we think, again, after the first quarter, we'll start to see kind of a hot and heavy uh-oh, we didn't really do anything in 2020, so now we're behind the curve and we need to catch up. And they're not going to be able to catch up very easily because the city, in terms of permits, are way behind already, and they're going to be even more behind when more people try to catch up. And then contractors have stayed busy. So we think there could be kind of a jam there, but we don't know. And that's just our guess is that that will start to happen. I think people are still looking also in the investment market. They've never stopped looking. Some people held out a little bit for fire sale situations, and those have not really come forth that much in Omaha. Owners of B and C investment grade properties have started to put them on market, which is a new trend, but no fire sales as of yet. So I think the investors are still out there looking for good properties to buy. So that's my update.
Susan, you're on mute.
Oh, thank you. I just realized that too. I'm like, I think the foreclosure deals and the super hot market that some people are trying to capture, while I do think that'll happen in some areas of the United States, I don't see a real hot market for that here. Residentially, for sure. I think there'll probably be a handful of things commercially, but we're pretty fortunate when it comes to that. We've fared well with that in the past. I think we'll continue to on here as well. Okay, well, thank you, Ryan, for your update as well. Okay, let's get started. If we can flip the page, the next, this is what the 2021 business plan looks like. So as Lauren mentioned before, we'll get it fillable and we'll have it so you can download it and use it. If it's something that you don't finish up today or you're using a notepad and you just want to formalize it, it'll be there for you. And as we dive into it, we've broke it out into 4 sections. So we're going to cover a reflection, an evaluation, the goals, and then the take action. So we're going to go through each of these sections. And as I mentioned before, really put some pen to paper and talk through it. So we're going to start with reflect. And as we think of reflect, you know, I'm sure you guys have always, I'm sure that there's all kinds of chatter about know your why, start with your why. You know, I think it's almost become a trendy statement, if you will. And to be completely honest, we almost left it out of this. But as we started to think about it, we really felt like there is a place for it. Because if you know me, you know that one of the things that I will tell you often is that there is no such thing as selling real estate 8 to 5. There's no such thing as getting into this as a career and thinking that selling real estate, being involved in real estate is not part of your everyday life. But there has to be a management of that. It can't consume your every minute, right? So we always have to think about, you know, you've chosen this as your career. You accept the fact that it is something that doesn't quote unquote turn off. And it's attracted you for a reason. The beauty of real estate is the endless possibilities of income, the endless things you can do with it. Obviously, if you think about our company, you don't just have to sell a house, you can do all things real estate. And so it really truly is endless possibilities. So what we want to do here in this section is we're going to take 5 minutes, and I do have a little timer, so I'll keep up on all of this. We're going to take 5 minutes and we're going to pause, and we want you guys to write down, think about your why. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What motivates you? Why are you doing this? And I don't want you to think about money could be one of your reasons, but that's not what we're focusing on here. We're focusing on why do you want the endless income possibilities? Why do you want to be in this particular field? Like, what is truly your why? So take 5 minutes. I want you to think through that. If it's just jot down some ideas, maybe you have a solid, clear why, write that down. I'm going to give everyone 5 minutes to work on that. Okay. I think it's important to note here too that, you know, your why can change. I think my why has changed over the years for sure. You start out with one focus or one thought process of why you're doing something, and as time goes on, life happens, things change. So if you had a why in the past, it might be different today than it was, or it could change from what it is today. Okay, let's move forward. I've got another question for you as we dig deeper into this reflection. This is the hardest part, this reflection time, because most of us don't give ourselves the time to really pause and actually think about these things. We just keep going through the motions. We're busy. We've got stuff to do. So I'm glad that you're here because this is forcing you to do it, right? So my next question to you that we're gonna take another 5 minutes for you to answer is, what does success look like to you? So you know, it's about, this could be more focused on, you know, success for me for 2021 would be, I get to buy this brand new car that I've had in my head for a long time, and I'm going to finally earn enough money to be able to get that car. Or it could look like an image in your head. You know, I've got enough nerve to present at, you know, 6 meetings this year, and I'm gonna do that, and that's what success would look like to me. So I'm gonna sign up and I'm gonna commit and I'm gonna do that. Or maybe it's X amount of money in the bank, or it's all those things. So that's kind of what we're looking for here as you answer this question. So I'll go ahead and start the timer on that. Okay, and then as we move on to the second question on this page, it says, what were your successes in 2020? So for some of you, it could be you got your real estate license and you took yourself serious, you invested in what you were doing, and you accomplished that. For others, it could be that you got up every day and you showed up because it's been a year. So take a few moments here. Let's take 3 minutes here for this one. I want you to really write out, think hard, think of things. They don't have to be this big grand thing. It can be simple things, but it's really important to reflect back on what some of your wins were of 2020 as we look towards really increasing the thought process for 2021. One of my favorite things to do is to look back through. I've been doing business plans like this for years, so I probably have 10 years or so worth of business plans. When I look back and I look at the goals and the things that I wanted to accomplish, as far back as 2010, it almost makes me chuckle. Some of the stuff that now is something I do every day, or it comes simple to me, or it's easy. So those wins are pretty incredible as you look back and see what you've accomplished over the years. So take 3 minutes here and really think about what wins you achieved in 2020. Okay. Does anyone have a win they want to share with the group? It's okay if you don't.
I suppose one win I wrote down was just actually transacting for the first time in 2020.
Yeah, that's a great one. For sure. You got to walk through the whole process of it, right? It's a great step towards making it a simpler, believing and having some confidence to do the next one. Anyone else?
I have one. I was challenged this year to think outside of my box and actually teach property management. at Randall, and it was extremely scary, but and I feel 3,000% better now that I can check it off my list.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was a big one. That's a big leap to stand up in front of your peers and have the confidence to teach them what you know. And that's awesome. When I was afraid to do any sort of public speaking for years. I mean, I don't care what it was, even to walk into a networking group and have more than one person look at me made me nervous. So I signed up for groups that I had to, like, it forced me to have to present, whether it was a minute presentation or a 10-minute presentation or whatever. I committed to doing it. And so it's amazing what happens. You can't get out of those once you've committed. So eventually it just becomes an easier process. So I encourage anyone who struggles with that, just take it one step at a time and put yourself in those spots where you have to. Anyone else have one to share?
I do. I have really dug into the ins and outs of certain parts of construction. So I've talked with a lot of contractors, and with the homes that I'm looking at, a lot of them are under the $200,000 range. And so it's been cool the last few months being able to use this knowledge and seeing how it's benefited my clients.
Yeah, that's great. Just making your expert, expanding your expert knowledge it's huge. That's good. One more. Anyone else have one more to share?
I'll share mine.
Great.
So my big 2020 was saying no to things. I'm horrible at saying yes to like any kind of like nonprofit things or anything like that. And I finally was like, had to start saying no to things that did not move my goals in real estate and my professional goals forward. And so now anything that I get myself involved in the community has to, in some form or another, also advance my career goals.
That's awesome. That's a big one, Jason, and one that takes a lot of people a long time to learn and do. So the power of no, it's a good one.
For real.
All right. Well, let's move on, you guys. That was good. Thanks for sharing those. Those are all awesome wins, and a good example that they don't have to be huge. They all add up. So, okay, so we're going to move into the evaluate section, and we are going to spend a little bit of time here on this page in particular. And we're going to go through, and I'll probably give you guys each like 1 minute in each section just to jot down some things. But let's take strengths first. I think it's really important to identify all of these, but strengths is always a fun one for me. Years ago, I did strengths finders, which, there's all kinds of those different things out there, but strength finders is one that I've always liked and one that I recommend to people to do. And when you take that, it's like an evaluation, and at the end it gives you your top 5 strengths. And so my top 5 strengths, let's see if I can remember them. When I did it, there were like 3 really boring ones. I remember thinking that, like, discipline and responsible and focused. And then one of them was relator, and then one of them was harmony. And so it's funny to me, like the course itself, if you do strength finders, it like breaks down and tells you how to apply all those strengths and how to use them forward. And so I've really, like, over the years thought, okay, how can I use like focus as a strength, or how can I use harmony as a strength? And when you know what your strengths are, you really can apply them in all ways. I often share those strengths now when I go on a listing appointment or meeting someone for the first time, so that they kind of understand what they're getting into with working with me, so that they fully understand and see that, I am focused on getting you the best result possible. It's actually one of my top 5 strengths. And, I can kind of speak to that a little bit more. So I think it's extremely important to identify your strengths so that you can, quote unquote, sell yourself and share that with folks as you meet them. So let's take a minute here. If you've done strength finders, or you know what your top strengths are, great, write them down. If not, take a few minutes or moments to kind of think through what you think they are. Okay, and then the same thought process for weaknesses. I think if you can admit to yourself and know what your weaknesses are, those are things that you can work on to improve. You know, for example, for myself, I would say technology is one of my weaknesses, and it became one of my goals for 2020 to really focus on not walking away, not running away from technology, but actually diving in and learning it a little bit better. Oddly enough, that was one of my goals prior to COVID. So COVID really was like, oh, hey, you're really going to learn technology this year. But that's, I mean, that's one of my weaknesses. It's something that I continuously work on. And I think, you know, there's all kinds of things here that you can put in here. It can be simple. It could be, you know, one of your weaknesses is maybe you're not a good writer. Okay, so how can you overcome that? Can you take classes to become a better writer, or can you hire somebody to do whatever writing needs you have? So think about it in that format, and I'll give you guys a minute here. Okay, and then moving on to opportunities. So what opportunities could you take advantage of? You know, this could be a handful of different things. I think an obvious one is, you know, if you are focusing on selling residential real estate, you realize we have opportunities for you to earn income in different ways throughout our company. So are you taking advantage of that? Are you exploring how to sell property management? Are you exploring how to at least get commercial referrals that you could send to someone else on the team and get paid a referral on that? Are you using that opportunity? Another example here could be, you know, maybe you're spending more time at home and less time commuting. So what are you doing with that time? Are you taking that extra 40 minutes that you're saving and putting that time and energy into your business? Using that as an opportunity instead of thinking about it negatively. So I'm gonna give you a minute here as well. And then our last section here is threats. So what threat or risks could get in your way and prevent you from meeting your goals? I think 2020 probably presented a lot of threats for us. And so as you look towards 2021, you know, what do you see as some possible issues going forward there? You know, maybe I think an obvious one too is the market. You know, I think I don't think there's a much of a threat on the residential side for the market, but you know, is there concerns on the commercial side? And then how do you work around that? So I think especially just using residential as an example, no matter what the market does, no matter how it shifts or how it changes, there's always an opportunity. There's an opportunity to earn money by helping just a different batch of clients, whether it's strong in first-time home buyers or strong in the luxury market, whatever the market's doing, there's an opportunity for you. So think through what are some threats, what are some risks that you could foresee happening in 2021. And if you can see those coming, or at least have put some thought into them, they usually, won't stunt you. So I'll give you a minute here. Okay, so the next page, as we move forward here, it asks you to really identify what your 2020 ROI was, so it can kind of help you determine what you can plan for 2021. We're not going to take time here today to go through this, because this is probably some stuff you'll have to look up and do some research on if you didn't do it in advance. But it's here, and it's important for you to really know where you were so you can make plans for where you want to go. So let's go to the next page. And the next page is really a breakout even further as you work towards, so you gather the data on that last page. Now you're moving it forward to your 2021 goal calculations. So you'll be able to use this page to work through that as well. And then the next section is our actions section. So we are going to spend just the remainder of our time here, and we're going to talk about, how are you going to take action? So if you think about 2021 and you think about different buckets, you'll hear me reference that often. You can't just rely on one way to bring in business. There's multiple ways. And if you take each year and you plan out what your buckets are going to be, and then you go back each year and you evaluate, how much did I get from each bucket? How much business from my sphere of influence did I get for sell by owners, or whatever the case may be, then you can evaluate, should I continue to work in that arena going forward in the next year, or should I start to shift my focus on something else? Is there another bucket that I wanted to explore that maybe I hadn't because I didn't have the time? So as we think about our sphere of influence, most of you have already taken the time to write out everyone that you know, and you've got your big list. But I do challenge you to think about that list every year. So take the time every year. I always use December and January, like the end of December, beginning of January, as my reflection goal planning timeframe. So take the time to really look at that list and say, are there more people that I should be adding to that list? Ask yourself questions. We're not going to flip to it here, but the next page of this business plan asks you questions, all kinds of questions. It says, who lives in your neighborhood? Who's your previous neighbors? Who does your auto repair? It really jugs really makes you think about it and start to really evaluate, is your sphere of influence list as bold and as plentiful as it could be. So if we go back to that take action page and we think about it, so how will you ensure that when your sphere of influence, when they think about real estate, that they're going to think of you first? So let's take a moment here. I want you to write down a couple things, like what are you going to do in 2021 to make sure that everyone in your sphere thinks of you first? I want to point out that we have, we've been working on our 2021 university classes, and we are doubling up this year. We're going to have, I think it's roughly 20-ish university classes available for you guys. And one of them is going to be very focused on your sphere and how to work that sphere, keeping in touch, really working the system. If you're familiar with Brian Buffini program, it'll be you know, a version of that we're going to walk through and make sure that you have the tools you need and are able to kind of put that plan in place and use it throughout the year. So we have different tools available to you that you can use for that, and we'll really expand out on that in the class. So kind of watch for that class schedule to come out the first week of January. And if you are really focused on your sphere of influence, that's going to be a class worth taking. So the next one here is FSBOs. Not everyone here wants to work FSBOs. Not everyone does work FSBOs, but I think in this market, you will do yourself a disservice to not think about FSBOs, especially for your buyers to buy. I think that there are a lot of homes that are under the 300 mark that are attempting to sell their homes via FSBO. I don't think that's the right route to go. We definitely can yield them more money when they list with us, but not everyone calls and asks me my opinion on everything. So the reality is there's a lot of FSBOs out there. So what's your plan? How are you going to work FSBOs? Either to try to convert a FSBO to a listing, to ensure that your sphere or friends, family, anyone doesn't do FSBO, they use you instead. Or that your buyers are considering FSBOs as an option. Those are all different areas to think about FSBOs. So take a moment here and think about that for a moment. Okay, networking. So this one's different, right? And 2020 has changed up networking quite a bit. So a lot of the networking that I've been doing has been more one-on-one meetings. So it might just be a coffee meeting. It could be in person or via Zoom. And then the networking groups that, excuse me, that I've committed to and I'm a part of, have all switched to Zoom. So that's really changed up things, and I've had to do things a little bit different. But even thinking past 2020, I do think networking, you're going to start to get back together again. There are going to be those things, but how will you continue to do networking, expand your networking, expand your sphere, meet more people? What does that look like for you in 2021? Okay, and referrals. How will you open the door to send and receive referrals with agents located outside of our market? So, you know, there's opportunities. I think 2021 is probably going to be a big year for opportunities of folks that are moving from one state to another, that are maybe considering moves outside of Omaha proper to maybe an hour, 2 hours away, as some companies are shifting to allow that remote work, whether it's full-time or 3 days at the office, 2 days at home. That might be enough for people to be okay with those kind of commute times. So I think 2021 is going to yield some really good opportunity for agents to work together in different areas, whether that's outside of just our market or outside of Omaha, Nebraska altogether. So what are you going to do to make sure that you're positioned well to receive and give those referrals? Then the farming section, there's multiple different ways and areas that you can farm. What's your plan for that? Is it your direct neighborhood, which I've always had very good results with farming my own neighborhood because and or area in which I live, because you're automatically in those places, opportunities to meet people. So for example, I lived in a neighborhood where my son went to school, we went to church in that neighborhood, we went to the grocery store very near that neighborhood, there was a pool, we went to the pool, there was a park, we went to the park. So I had all kinds of opportunities to meet folks in my neighborhood. So it was a very easy way to farm. In addition to seeing people, I obviously sent out mailers and did different things like that. It doesn't have to be your own neighborhood, though. It can be other things, other locations, other places that you have some involvement in. I will say you yield the best results if you are showing up and you are somehow involved in that particular neighborhood or area that you are farming in. So what does that look like for you? Have you not farmed in the past? Is it something you should consider for 2021? And we do have a full resource on how to do farming in the agent toolbox of exactly what you should do, how you should do it, how you should plan out what you should farm. Lots of ideas there if you're interested in doing a farming plan bucket, if you will, this year. So I'll give you a few moments for that one. Okay, and then social media. I mean, this is a big one. We will have multiple sessions on social media in 2021. It's definitely a big part of your business. If you're not doing it, there's ways to get started. You can dip your toe in. You can definitely do it over time. But one thing, if nothing else, make it your goal for 2021 to start social media. If you are doing it, let's look at ways that you can really truly expand your social media into bigger and better ways. We are extremely fortunate to have Clinton on our team, and he will meet and work with any of you individually, in addition to those classes we're going to have. So if social media is something that you're like, I'm going to do better at this in 2021, book a class, book an hour with Clinton. He can do it via Zoom, he can do it in person, whatever you prefer, and really make social media a thing for 2021. And then the internal cross sales, I kind of covered that a little bit with, think about what are you going to do this year to expand outside of what you've been focusing on? So if all you've done is sell some residential homes, what's the next thing that you could do? Just pick one that you're going to work on this year to really start cross-selling. How can you bring in an HOA that we could manage? You make money off of that. So how could you start to really potentially get in front of some commercial folks to give those referrals to someone, or to start learning it and working it yourself? Really, just what is one area that we do that you could start to dip your toe in and get started on? Think about that for just a moment. That hour flew by. What I hope for you guys now is that I'm going to leave you on the take action section, and that you will continue to take action and finish this up. I got you started. I got you thinking. You took the time to be here today. So give yourself another 30, 45 minutes. And if it's not today, budget it, schedule it in there, plan it out to really finish this out and do those sections that we skipped over. And also, I really hope that you will really look at those university classes when they come out. In addition to that, we are going to do some very sales focused classes in 2021. So watch for those. If you are interested in those and you want to know more about them, of course, we'll tell you, but they're coming out. We're planning them. We're getting them moving. So really looking to be present and work with you guys on all of this stuff for 2021 as best as we can, whether it's from a distance or in person. We're still going to continue to show up for you. As long as you show up for these, we'll be here to teach you and show you how to do stuff. So I hope when that schedule comes out in 2021, you guys will take a look at it and just add them to your calendar and, plan to show up for yourself and take those classes. And I've said this before, although I think just coming and learning should be enough. But if you do attend those university classes, you'll always have all the CE credits you need when it comes time to renew your license. So if for no other reason, you can attend for that. I hope this was helpful for everyone. I hope that you will take action and move forward and dream big for 2021, because we think everything looks great. Obviously, based on the forecast we gave you, your opportunities are there, and we hope you guys will dive in and take advantage of that. So that's all I have for you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time to go through this, and have a great time. See you later.
Thank you.